Brooklyn Nets. So let's bring in, folks, a round of applause. This is Jack Roche, ladies and gentlemen, in the studio with us. Three-man crew. This has been a long time since we've been able to do this, Mr. Roche. It's a lot of fun to have you here.
Thank you for having me on. First, I wanted to say I was at the Heat-Nets game the other night.
A lot of Heat fans, right?
A lot of Heat fans. I heard a lot of "Let's go Heat," not enough "Let's go Nets."
That would be because the Knicks are New York's team, but carry on.
I'm not refuting that at all. I'm just going to say that.
Alex said something earlier in the intro.
That's past
really,
us now. That's past us now. We're talking about the Knicks.
We missed that episode.
All right. Well, we could talk about it off air, but what I will say is that everyone talks about Kyle Lowry with the Heat.
Yeah.
And the other night, Heat played the Nets. 5 players scored in double digits for the Heat. Kyle Lowry only had 9. So it's not just him. This whole team is clicking, and for a team like the Nets, that means trouble.
The East is really, really good right now. I don't think we can overlook this word. That we're talking about 4 teams right now: the Knicks, the Heat, the Wizards. Let's not make jokes about the Wizards. They're a playoff team. Let's not kid ourselves here.
Like a 10.
They're a playoff
with
team.
The expanded,
play-in team.
Yeah, there we go.
The Bulls are a playoff team. The Hornets are a playoff team. And the Bucks and Hawks and all these other teams are on the outside looking into that right now. And the Nets, man, what an interesting start to the season. We talked about this before where you said you're almost becoming a bit of a Nets enthusiast because there's a story every week with this team. What's the story that's on your mind right now about this team?
I definitely would have to mention LaMarcus Aldridge last night, not just putting up 17 points in the second half, but becoming part of the exclusive 20,000-point career total, which I think they mentioned there are only 7 active players with that. And I'd name the list, but it's who you'd expect. It's LeBron James, it's Carmelo Anthony, it's Chris Paul. And when you've got him going, you're so used to seeing that deep 2-pointer from LaMarcus Aldridge. And last night, it was really easy to call him the third best scorer on the team. And going forward without Kyrie Irving, I think you're going to see him kind of slide into that role. And, the Nets roster is, there are a lot of uncertainties. And I saw a Nets reporter last night joking that I think Javon Carter or Bruce Brown is their best roller, and the defense, there are a lot of holes there. But when they look on, I don't see a team better than them. And it was so reassuring to see James Harden pull out one of his vintage performances last night, 29 points. He joked the other night that he wasn't going to be in the 30s, 40s club, and then put up 29, so almost there. But the thing that stands out for me is 19 free throw attempts, and he's kind of been that poster boy of the foul rule, and calls are down dramatically this year. But last night, you saw him getting to the line with ease, and that really comes, his words, not mine, from being aggressive. So, if you're a Nets fan, that's something that you really want to see out of James Harden, who has struggled at times this year.
So a lot of the notes Jack Roche hit on right now were talked about in the post-game sound that you were a part of. So if we could, let's try to get a little bit of LaMarcus Aldridge, James Harden, and all those guys from the post-game sound last night.
Yeah, I tried to hit it off the backboard, but I still shouldn't even have did that. I don't know what I was thinking. I thought I was at the gym by myself in a pickup game, not an NBA game. I can't do that. I could have cost my team a game. But it won't happen again. I hope so.
And were you surprised you didn't get ejected? The rules, I think, are pretty clear with that.
Yeah, I didn't know you could get ejected off of that, but I'm glad I stayed into the game. I'm sure a hefty fine is coming, but I don't mind giving this. I'm sure somebody in the NBA office is going to use that towards the college fund, so I don't mind.
I think Kev hit me on 2 back-to-back jump shots, or I think Patty and then Kev hit me, and then they called timeout. And I was sitting there with Kev, and I was like, man, I need one more bucket for $20K. He said, I want to pass it to you. But then, they ended up trapping him or whatever. I wasn't there. But I knew. That's why, when I hit the shot, I kind of looked over at Kev and started laughing.
It's just me being aggressive. The first couple games wasn't aggressive. I was aggressive at spurts, but just trying to be aggressive for 4 quarters. And I had that burst, that speed of just getting to my spots, whether it's getting to the basket or shooting my shot. So, I felt pretty good out there for an entire game.
James, at the last game, you talked about patience before you get to, being a 30, 40 guy a night. You had 29 tonight. How'd you feel out there?
It wasn't 30. No, I'm just
So in order to give you the sound there, Kevin Durant, LaMarcus Aldridge talking about getting 20,000, and a couple from James Harden about that aggressive mindset Jack talked about, and then about being short of that 30-point club. And yeah, obviously LaMarcus Aldridge, have to take a second and talk about him because he didn't step away from basketball because of loss of love for the game or a loss of talent. He stepped away for obviously an unfortunate health circumstance that he addressed and made a very, very smart decision. And now coming back, a little reminder of how good of a player he is. Obviously, the 20,000 club is extraordinary. 21 and 8 last night, 10 to 16 from the field. Dude was an all-star for a reason, so we'll see how much he can give you this season. But the thing that was awesome to me about that collection of sound, the one that we started with, was Kevin Durant throwing the ball into the stands. And Lou, I find this really funny because even on a night where so much went right, 20,000, terrific, wonderful, 105-98 win at home, wonderful Friday night. Always something. There's always something about these Nets, and that silly incident was the one last night.
Yeah, it just always feels like there's some underlying drama. There can never be just like a perfectly wholesome good moment for the Nets. There's always something going on, but I think Nets fans would be willing to give KD a little bit of a pass considering he's kind of carried this team on his back while Harden's gone through his struggles. Kyrie obviously not playing, and KD's been the guy stepping up, averaging almost 29. So not what you want to see, but yeah.
The one thing I think the Nets deserve some credit for this entire time, though, they've never let any of these situations waver from the ultimate goal. Like, even though Kevin Durant made a silly decision last night, not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. We're making it a bigger deal than it is. The Kyrie Irving situation is routinely brought up in the press conferences. I've seen the sound you've sent, Jack. They've kept their heads down, though, to their credit. Kevin Durant said he's not coming down to save us. We've got to win with the guys we have here. And to their credit, 3-3 is not the best, but they're playing together as a team, and they're showing what you need to see early in the season, despite all this other stuff going on.
Yeah, and to the point of Kyrie, just want to give you a quick update. Before the game, Steve Nash said that he has been in contact with Kyrie. They talked strictly non-basketball, so more just Nash checking up on him, which I think is encouraging. That's something you want to see. So, it's not like it's a completely ghost situation. But, to your point about how there's always something going on, to me, just as a criticism to the team, in a you're always happy to get in the W column.
Absolutely.
That's great. However, that game should have been wrapped up much earlier than it was. You talk about the first quarter, they gave up 38 points. I think 3 minutes into the second quarter, Torrey Craig had 16 points, which is just unacceptable. But then you get James Harden going, and then you go into the third quarter, and LaMarcus Aldridge is going, right? And you're riding this lead, and there were just too many instances in the fourth quarter where they just couldn't put away the Pacers. And don't get me wrong, Rick Carlisle's squad has tenacity. They're, I think, 1-4.
1-5. They should be better, I feel like, than 1-5.
But they didn't play like a 1-5 team last night. They played well. But the Nets just should have put them away. There were turnovers. There were poor decisions. And to me, that's really an area to sharpen up going forward. When you have that lead, especially when there are games when you're not going to get James Harden every night, when he's got his hamstring issues. Blake Griffin's not playing back-to-back. LaMarcus Aldridge. They've got some older players that you just can't depend on night in and night out. So when you have a lead in the fourth quarter, you have to seal that away. So to me, I think that's something that the Nets need to work on, just closing out games.